right, welcome back, guys, to another episode of News from the Real World podcast.
Thank you.
No problem. Joining us today, we have a wonderful team.
Adam.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Margo.
I'm Lauren.
Great. Let's kick it off with talking about Shakespeare. Man, Shakespeare, guys. Don't we love to talk about Shakespeare?
Why does this guy keep coming?
I don't know, some British dude.
It's like he's a big deal.
this article is called Shakespeare Scholars Unite to See Off Claims of Bard Deniers. It's from the Guardian Culture blog by Dahlia Albridge. So I know you guys have had in your mind for a long time that maybe Shakespeare didn't write his plays, you know, maybe global warming doesn't exist, maybe there's no such thing as evolution, but these scholars, 22 of them, have united to debunk the skeptics. So they are publishing a book which seeks to prove once and for all that Shakespeare authored his own plays. It's basically a series of essays picking out a few of the more popular sort of theories about who else might have written Shakespeare's plays, and just totally calling bullshit. So this has become such a popular thing, the sort of Shakespeare denying. There are even master's programs that you can go to in Shakespeare authorship studies, whose entire purpose is to get a master's degree in saying that Shakespeare didn't write his plays. And so these scholars have sort of gotten to the point where they said, okay, really now, let's all get together and once and for all explain to these people that Shakespeare wrote his plays. So do you guys, they talk like
Did
that.
They do it in that sort of voice?
From California.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys feel about this? Do you feel that this will chase off the skeptics? Do you yourselves still feel
No.
No.
And what I mean by that is that these people that want to deny that Shakespeare did it will not stop denying it.
Why is that?
Because conspiracy theorists like to believe it even if it's wrong. Hopefully what this will do is when these theories come up, we will have a set volume of work that can debunk everything that's coming out of this research. So all of these master's students that are coming out of this program, we can just hand them this book and say you're wrong.
Wow, Lauren has strong feelings about
I
this.
just have strong
You're a
feelings.
Shakespearean.
I am.
Shakespearean apologist.
I am.
I like it. I just don't know why anybody cares. And I think the real reason that this book won't matter is that for it to be true, like half the people are out of a job. Like, you know, if you're not just going to give up your belief that's been your bread and butter for your whole career. Not that they don't believe what they're saying. I'm sure that they do, some of them. But I guess my question to you guys is, like, why do we care about authorship so much? Why does it matter? I mean, the work speaks for itself. Does it matter?
Well, why do dramaturgs study the life of the playwright? Is that important?
The context matters, and the playwright's intention matters, and I think that's why people are concerned about it, is that if you're looking at a body of work, then you're interested in looking at patterns, looking at, you know, intention behind each piece in that collection. So from that perspective, I understand why people care about it.
Mm-hmm. But Shakespeare in particular has this huge mythology around him, right? You know, he is, for whatever reason, you know, the strength of his work or whatever confluence of social, cultural, historical events has become, like,
Kind
the
of a
playwright.
legend, or there's something more about him than just the person.
Yeah.
That I think people don't like being affected by in a contrary manner. They don't like hearing that Shakespeare's not a real person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's almost like he's some sort of god that people don't like to hear blasphemy against, because people, these 22 scholars, for example, get real mad when people question it, which, you know, to be fair, I think I would get mad too if people were making some of these ridiculous claims, like, who was it? People would claim that he was Marlowe, who died in 1593 and was therefore dead when most of Shakespeare's plays were written. So probably
Marlowe. They even have a name. They're called Marlovians.
Yeah, I thought that was nice. So if you are a Marlovian,
I mean, I love Marlowe. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
And he is, like, a way cooler person than Shakespeare ever was. And he died in a knife fight, for crying out loud.
It's way cooler.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I guess it's not that I don't think that there's value to knowing who an author is. But I think that at a certain point, if you can't find out, then you ought to be looking for some other inspiration, some other ways to access the work. If you're never going to be definitive about it, at least for me as like somebody who cares about theater and like wants to see good theater put on, I just don't see how this argument is really about the work. It's not really about what we do. It's about what a bunch of people who have come up with this way to write books care about. So that's my cynical opinion.
So we will keep all of those academics employed for a long time to come.
Yeah.
Let's move from the 1600s to the, I don't know, what are we in now? The aughts? Anyway, whatever century. 21st century.
How do you say that?
I always get them confused.
Yeah, I don't know. The future is difficult to live in. Let's talk about wireless.
Yeah, the F.C.C. New York Times putting out an article a few weeks ago about Broadway and how the narrow strip of the wireless signal that Broadway uses for their wireless mics and stuff is about to get taken away from them and sold to cell phone companies, as much of the bandwidth has been going to. Everybody remembers that there used to be television over the airwaves. That no longer exists because it now is all cell phones. Which I don't necessarily have a problem with personally. What I do have a problem with is that the F.C.C., from my perspective, doesn't have ownership at all. Like the idea that they can sell this thing, they don't sell it, they regulate it. And the way they regulate it is by charging for it. Like that's just how our government works. You either make people pay for something or you put them in prison. That's pretty much the only ways that we kind of deal with issues in our society, it seems like. So yeah, I have no real issue with the fact that this switch is happening. I do wonder if it doesn't bring up some right to speech rights and stuff that we could talk about.
It also, I do have a problem with this because I think it affects the stagecraft ultimately. If you're shrinking the bandwidth, you're changing the technology that they're using in those theaters. The article talked about how there's about 50 Broadway shows running at any given time, and each of the shows has about 45 to 60 wireless mics going on for one production. So shrinking the bandwidth really affects the way that those shows function, and maybe could cause some issues when you're talking about moving scenery, about crew safety backstage, that kind of thing. So I think it really is going to change the way that we think about theatrical sound design and soundcraft, which I think is really concerning if we have to overhaul our entire system.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, one, how do we, like, I was just wondering, okay, so the government, the government or...
We own it. We own the airwaves.
We the people.
We as a
taxpayers.
Yeah, taxpayers own it. The F.C.C. regulates. And the F.C.C.'s, what they're supposed to do is they have three things that they're supposed to do. Make available adequate radio communication services at reasonable charges. That's like their mission statement. Aid in national defense and promote safety. So the bandwidth that they're taking away, they're supposedly going to pay for a national safety radio network, basically, from the proceeds of selling off the bandwidth that they're doing right now. I don't know. That sounds like just one of those things that a politician writes in a bill in order to make it sound...
Yeah, because they said the money's going towards the deficit or something like that, and I was like, I just want to punch the guy in the face that said that, or the throat. Because I was just like, we're just trying to... That just got me really frustrated on a whole nother issue, and I was like...
Right, well, because it doesn't seem like... yes, if you have assets... Yes, you could auction off things and sell them, and sell your aircraft carriers and sell your, yes, you could sell anything to pay for some of the deficit if that's what you really want. But it seems like if their mission is to regulate it and for reasonable prices, as they said, then selling it to cell phone companies is, how do you decide who deserves more access?
And that's what I'm saying. I don't think that's their decision to make, personally.
Yeah, because, you look
Whose is it?
Our politicians. The F.C.C. is as elected representatives. It's us through our elected representatives, but the F.C.C. is a chaired department, so it's not. It really has, other than Oh man, I actually don't know if the president
elected,
directly. No, it's not elected.
It's just appointed.
It's appointed, but so it has to be the head of the executive branch. So it must be the president who puts that person in charge.
Yeah, I had hope that the NFL was also up in arms about this, that it's not just Broadway.
Yeah, strange bedfellows there.
Yeah, it is a little strange, but sometimes all those arts people, folks don't necessarily listen to, but it seems like sports somehow has more social capital, and if you start telling people, oh, that people on Broadway won't be able to talk to people backstage, people are like, well, that's nobody cares. But if you're like, well, coaches won't be able to talk to
the quarterback.
Whoa.
Safety or just a play?
So that's how football saves Broadway.
Right, amazing. That is
whoever knew that football would save Broadway.
I want to film that story and play it every Christmas.
I think I saw that movie somewhere.
That's coming soon to a theater near you.
Maybe it was just a beautiful dream.
So let's move on to talk about some more marketing tactics.
Yes, Trevor O'Donnell, on his own personal blog, with the title of "Filling the Empty Seats," discusses marketing to. His example was if you have a theater that has 100 seats. And you're like you do pre-ticket sales, all this fun jazz. Your 1 through 30 are your dedicated people. Your 30 through your 60 are your kind of a little harder to sell. But then he's really starts honing in on number 75 and 76. I guess his example, this is important to say, is that on opening night or one of the nights there's 25 seats left for sale. And how do we get 75, 76... all the way to 100 in. He doesn't really offer anything to help this, or if he did, I totally missed it, so prove me wrong. But it is an interesting conundrum, is how do you fill those seats? Because, we all know, if you could fill every seat every night, not for the fact of the energy in the place, just your bottom budget line would be so much greater. The ability to do things would be just launched into space. He talks a little example of 75 comes and buys a ticket, and then 76 almost gets there, but then just decides to turn left and not go to the theater.
How to get that person.
Yeah, how to get that person. And I think it's very much worth dealing with, but it's one of those things to where, how number 1 through 30 do not want to be ignored. Because if you ignore, and within the, and it's one of those things I think of. It's you have to try, you have to be willing to risk to spend a little extra money to get the N25. So I don't know what thoughts, concerns.
I agree that there was no practical advice in this article. There was zero information in this article.
Comprehension skills.
There was some sort of, hey, maybe you should think about but it was really sort of, opinion.
Right.
And I, having run a company in Chicago, which is a pretty competitive theater market, we're always thinking about how do we get people to come to the show, right? And I've seen people do some really interesting things to fill those last empty seats. There are some people who will do rush tickets or pay what you can tickets that you can only get 10 minutes before curtain, right? So people who really don't want to miss the show those first 30 people are going to pay for those tickets, or get them the day before, and then the people who are like, maybe I'll go out tonight. Hey, I can get pay what you can tickets 10 minutes before. That's incentive. Or there are places that are all sort of set your own ticket price. So people have some interesting ways of dealing with those. But I also think that the person who is going to sit at home and watch Netflix anyway is not the person whose dollar you're competing for.
Well, but maybe if something popped up on their screen, as they go to click on their next episode of Luther or whatever they're watching that week, that had that information, hey, you can watch this, or you could go, downtown and go see a play for $10. I don't know. It's about the advertising, right? It's about them knowing that they have that choice, that option.
Yeah.
That it seems to me is the hard thing, because you can offer all the rush tickets you want.
Sure.
If nobody knows about them, then nobody's going to buy them.
Yeah, I would say that like the people who are more likely to come than like the Netflix, because if you're already on the couch and in your pajamas and you have a bowl of popcorn, I am not. It is 30 degrees outside. I am not coming out.
I'm in my pajamas right now.
And you are not going to the theater today. You could have gone. You knew that there was theater going on, and you're not at it.
Yeah, I'm here.
You were okay. Well, that's, I think that's a good choice. But I think the people who you're competing with on a given night, those last few people are already out. They're at a restaurant. Maybe they're going to a show.
Right.
Maybe they're so.
So how do you get them? Like, is it a little? Is it I don't know, I hate to use the word app. Is it like something that we a couple of weeks ago we talked about this thing they're doing in Connecticut where you buy a kind of membership to all the theaters in Connecticut. I mean, can theaters get together in a market like Chicago, smaller theaters, and say, hey, we're going to do these rush ticket blitzes every Friday night and send them out to subscribers, and boom, now you've got a connection to those few people who are out looking for something to do at 7:30.
Right, on a Friday night. Or, like late night shows, like 11:30 shows, I think that's something that you're at the bar and you're like, hey, we can see the Neo-Futurists in half an hour, let's go do it. I mean, I think neighborhoods, especially Chicago, which is sort of a larger city, localness is very important. So like sometimes people will partner with restaurants and like, hey, if you have dinner at this restaurant, you get $10 off your ticket. So, and if it says that on the menu, then you're like, oh, we could go to a show after dinner? Like, that might be...
That sounds like a great idea. I've never seen anything like that, so, I mean...
Yeah, but I mean, I think the idea of an app, because people love their apps.
They do love those apps.
Freaking love their apps.
As somebody who's run a theater, as you say, are these numbers... I mean, they seem way overblown to me. Like, are people selling 75% of their tickets on a regular night? That seems very high to me. Like, I mean... The 30% subscriber, and then the 75%... sold tickets. I don't know, maybe in New York, but I don't see that.
I sort of think it depends on what scale you're at. If you're in like a regional theater model where you have, I mean, like my company doesn't have subscribers,
right.
So we have a base that will buy tickets, but I don't think. Well, first of all, we also don't perform in 100-seat venues, but like
you're much bigger, spaces.
Way bigger.
Yes, truth, false. Because
I mean the whole thing's about these numbers, and they don't.
Yeah, I mean I don't know because I don't have like sort of wider ranging statistics, and I think it varies widely. If you're on a Saturday night, then yes, hopefully you are selling 75% of your tickets. But I think it depends a lot on the market and the sort of like model that you have. Do you depend on subscribers for like my company? Our income. Is about 75% from tickets, which is actually really high. Like most companies make less than 50% of their income from tickets.
Right.
Often much less than 50% of their income from selling tickets. So, I mean, it really depends on sort of what your model is, then what your options are. Can you afford to give away rush tickets through an app? Can you afford, to...
Well, it's kind of one of the things, can you afford it, but a $2 someone in a seat is better than a 0 seat.
Yeah.
If 75% of your funding is coming from ticket sales. If it's not, then actually that $2 it's a wash. It might as well not exist.
Yeah.
And I know like it's crazy. I mean, I don't know. When my sister does social media advertising for companies.
Oh, interesting.
And it blows my mind every time I think about it because all she does is sit on Facebook, Twitter, Linked, and the other 90 social media people that just aren't as popular as those main 3 yet, and does tweets for like she worked with the like City of Commerce for Charlotte, and it'd be like Carson Street or like here in Pittsburgh, it'd be like Carson Street from this block to this block are doing half off drinks if you print off this coupon. So I mean, I know we all say do Twitter and things, but I really think that it's the app thing. Like you and
and
you have to try that kind of stuff, and
it's like modern word of mouth.
Right.
And
exactly.
Right. And I think what you're buying with these like last minute people who might not have a big investment in your theater, they only just barely decided to come, or they wandered in from the restaurant next door. What you're buying with like a discounted ticket is the opportunity to win that person.
Oh, yeah.
So
Repeat.
So
and it talks
because
a large
you're going to blow them
it.
away, obviously.
Right. Because it talks a large about that is like that last 25% could become them your 30%, like making them your new audience and such.
Exactly. So strategies.
There you
So
go.
there's lots of those were some practical solutions that we came up with.
Yeah, he didn't have none.
No, he didn't
We
have
should
none.
all be writing blogs.
Yeah, right. We can get our blog on. So let's talk about something completely different. Should we talk about music?
Yes. This is an article from newmusicbox.org, and it's called The Power List: Why Women Aren't Equals in Music, Leadership, and Innovation. So this talks about why women have not made it to the upper levels of creative leadership. And the article talks a lot about how society has created what they call self-limiting attitudes in women. That society has set women up to believe that they should not be leaders, that they shouldn't see themselves as leaders, and that generally women pay more of what they call a social tax for success. So there are things in place in society that make it harder for women to reach those upper levels despite their desire or despite the number of women that are ready to step up to that. I thought this was really well articulated and really had some good perspective on this issue. What did you guys think?
And she also included a lot of facts.
Yeah, it was fabulous.
which I like.
I did agree real fast that I really liked the article because, like you said, it came across really articulate and really well worded to where it didn't seem like it was attacking anyone. It was just like, this is just a statement of fact. Like, these things are happening, and I really want to make everyone aware so we can try to improve this. And it was really interesting, the point where she made, she's very renowned in Chicago. When it was her, another female, and two men. Oh, that's interesting. It's interesting that I just said her, another female, and two men. But maybe that's beside the point. So her, another woman, and two men were on a board to select music for some festival, and they ended up selecting like 75% men and only 25% women. And she's like, how did we end up doing this, even when we're trying to be conscious of this?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's this really ingrained sort of social thing. And I mean, I think it's interesting that she points out, this new Sheryl Sandberg book that's come out, Lean In, which is controversial, has its, good points and bad points, but it's trying to give suggestions of things that women could do to sort of overcome this internal bias that they have. Because if you grow up hearing, this is going to be really difficult for you if you ever want to have babies, right. And hearing feminine as an insult, like, you throw like a girl, like all that sort of stuff, anything feminine is an insult, then, I mean, that definitely gets internalized. I mean, I sort of worry about things like this, losing track of the fact. I mean, I don't think she is, but I think sometimes people use articles like this to lose track of the fact that there are external forces at work, right? It's not, well, ladies, just get your shit together, right. Because that's, you can lean in as much as you like and still face some really serious obstacles.
Yeah, I mean, for me, she lists these 6 points. The likability tax that women musicians pay when they are self-promoting, assertive, and successful. And by that I mean she means, if you're asserting and promote yourself, then people are going to like you a little less because you're seen as
pushy. You're a pushy bitch.
But I did want to say about that, like, I feel that way about anybody that's like that. I think, like, I would like to say that, in at least in my own internal world, that's something that that tax is suffered by all people. And I
think
me.
it's.
I don't think it has any.
Well,
I don't know. Maybe it is for other people, but I'm just talking about for myself.
Okay.
Like, it's no more annoying to have a self-promoting woman than it is.
But I think women are perceived less well for doing that than men are. It's acceptable for a man to do that. It's not always acceptable for a woman to do that.
And even if it's not self-promoting, like assertiveness. Right. If you in a meeting as a woman say something like, "Please don't cut me off, I'm talking," people are like, "Damn, what a bitch."
Right, but if a guy did that, it would be okay.
Yeah, or a guy.
See, for me, it wouldn't be okay. It would be like, God, what a dick. Like, that would be this. It would just be the same. Same reaction.
Here we go. I agree. I agree with this gentleman. Right. But wait just a second.
It's not that I'm not saying it doesn't happen, and I'm not discounting what
you
you're
guys say that
experiencing.
because I have experienced this.
I'm
Right.
sure you
No.
have.
Yeah.
No. I'm not saying that you haven't.
Yeah, I'm not saying, but I just hold on. So when I read that part, all I wrote was women equal success equal less likable, and I didn't even go as far as pushy people. I just went as far as someone that would be like one of our professors or one of like just like the dean of the school. I mean, not saying that they were pushy. Even this woman here. Like, I was just thinking of just general, like, I didn't even go as far to think about, like, people being pushy or anything like that. But no, that's a really good point. And I mean, like,
Or even, like, successful. For example, if you're the CEO of a company and you spend 80 hours a week working, people will say about, and you have kids, people will say about you, she is such a horrible mother. She never spends any time with her kids. If you are a man and you work 80 hours a week and you're making a great salary, people will say, what a
it's a special thing that the woman got there. It's expected that the man would have that position, but it's some magical thing that this woman is.
I guess my question is like the asshole that's going to think that way. Like they're going to think that way because they're an asshole. It's not because like the person who's going to think, oh, you're a horrible mother. Like that's just because that person is ignorant, isn't it?
Society. Those are societal norms that we have.
If it's just one person who's an asshole, then that's fine. Right. If it is a society of people who have a more negative opinion about women because of things that would ultimately make them successful, like assertiveness, like even when they get to be successful, being then you're creating a pattern.
Right. And that's what I have an issue with, is that there are, I have experienced this. Margo, I'm sure you have too, is that women, the article said this, women underestimate their talents and abilities frequently, and therefore they don't think that they're able to do these jobs, or they don't think they're worthy of these jobs, which I think is terrible from
Yeah.
Yeah, we
No
had
question.
we did this workshop on entrepreneurship with Liz Bradley, who teaches at NYU. She used to be Peter Cook, and so she was talking about the qualities of entrepreneurship, and she had us do this inventory where we listed all these things that entrepreneurs do, and then we wrote down things that we thought, characteristics we thought we had, and ones we thought we need to work on. And she said, now, here's what I want to share with you. I've been doing this at NYU for a number of years, and every single class, when we turn these in, women think less of themselves than men do.
because we're taught to.
Because we're taught to. One of the most common things that female executives are coached on is negativity. I don't think I can do this. I don't think I'm going to succeed because it's so ingrained. So is it shitty? Are people, I don't think it's always that people are assholes that they're thinking that. I think there are these ingrained patterns of...
You're brought up to think that way.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're conscious of it or not, there are things in society that teach us that this is how women are treated, or this is how we're supposed to think of ourselves in society.
What did you guys think about and I know this is true, that when choosing to hire, men are significantly more likely to choose a man. Now the problem there, really, to me, is that right now, in our society, more men are doing the hiring than women are.
Right.
When that's different, when it flips, which it will someday, no question, because it's just the way that we are heading, I hope. It's to a more egalitarian society. Who knows if that's true or not. But that's my hope. When that does flip over, do you think that the same will hold true for women? Do you think women will be much more likely to hire women?
I don't think so.
Nope.
Now, why do you think that?
Why
do you...
May I? Okay, so there was this study a few years ago about female artistic directors choosing plays for their seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And what they found was that female artistic directors were actually harder on female playwrights than male artistic directors. Because, possibly, one theory, women know how much harder it is to get a play by a female produced. And so they were harder on those female playwrights because they knew that the chance that if they as a woman bring a female playwright to the board thinks not, oh, she chose that play because it's good, but like, oh, she chose that play because it's a lady play. So there's a risk. There's right. No, but this is a serious problem.
It was just the lady play.
Lady plays. I know, because that's how people think of them in this really derogatory way. Right? This is a lady play. But I think that that's similar. If you, as a woman, suggest hiring another woman, then people think, are you just picking?
And this is exactly the problem.
Because I don't think if you hire a man, people think like, oh, that must be the best candidate.
Right.
But there's this little speck in people's minds that think, oh, are you just doing this because you're a raging feminist?
Right.
So I would say that I don't think women are more like, and I'm curious, there must be some study now that says whether women are more likely to hire.
Well, I mean, the truth is, I guess, under the same sort of societal pressures, they're really probably kind of feeling the same,
exactly,
having the same issues with it.
Right.
That
I mean, it's also women who are sitting in boardrooms going, "That woman is a pushy bitch." It's not just men who have that reaction.
That's what I was trying to
Women are
articulate.
socialized in the same way.
Well.
It's a wider societal problem that we need to address, I think, ultimately.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry.
No.
I'm
Well,
so
how do we as a department
I think it's
specifically address this?
That's a good question.
I mean, I think it's tough because you don't want to make it a problem by looking at it as a problem. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't talk about it, it goes away. But at the same time, I think there's got to be some action to make young girls think that they're, empowering younger girls. I think that's where we start.
I mean, is there anything to be said about the fact that I don't know a percentage off the top of my head, but most of our stage managers are female, right? A majority, at least. And they are the managers and the sort of executives of what we do in a lot of ways, and a lot of them end up going on to be producers and business directors and managing directors. And does it say anything, maybe, hopefully, about at least our department, if not our field, that might be a change that's going on for the better?
I still think that theater is generally fairly male-dominated. Scenic design in particular, I think that trend is absolutely starting to shift, but the first woman to win a Tony for Best Scenic Design was only 8 years ago. So I think it's just starting to shift right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting that women are usually in the majority in college programs, and yet, our numbers are still not great.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's worth having a conversation about, school-wise, note that our main stage season next year is all written by white dudes.
And has been consistently.
Yeah. There have been a few. A few.
We've had 2 or 3 female playwrights in the past 2 or 3 seasons.
That's not great. Not a great record. But even things
couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So
I think that's where it starts, is, making it a norm to have female playwrights, and making it a norm to have, female scenic
Black
designers.
and Latino playwrights.
Yeah, exactly.
Too.
I mean, this goes across everything. Absolutely.
Well, I don't know if we want to get into this, but next year is our anniversary, and it's the year of the American play,
the year of the American white man.
And as you say, are you kidding me that there's no Black American playwrights that we could be doing? There's no female American playwrights that we could be doing.
There's
Susan
one
Lloyd Parks
playwright
comes
of
to
color
mind.
in the whole season, directed by an undergraduate director, and I think 2 female playwrights directed by
anyway,
grad students.
it's a topic for another day, I think.
It is. But I mean, something to think about.
Well, maybe that's the point. It's not a topic for another day.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, like you talked about, if we stop talking about it, then then we become her hiring 75% male and 25% female for the music contest.
I think we have to be active about it.
Right.
And then later on down the line, we won't have to talk about it anymore.
Right, because, I mean, the idea is that you change that, you make that shift to where, you throw, we change it, you throw like a dog. And then, we just insult the dog. It's fine because, the dog's not going to, rule the company.
Now you're going to be speciest on this.
And on that note, I think that is a good note to end on. Thank you for a lively discussion.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh! I almost threw a punch.
At who? You just really were feeling just like,
I like how the thing always ends in words like, I was going to kill everybody in here.